Hello and welcome to a tutorial in Lightwave 3D about IK Booster. So IK Booster, for those who don't know, is a plugin in Lightwave for animation. A very powerful plugin, so if you don't use it yet, this is an attempt at getting you to use it. So I hope by the end of this series, you will realize that using IK Booster for all your animations is actually a good thing. So to start with, let me show you why. I've got like 10 reasons why I use IK Booster, so I've written them down in my notepad here. So let's begin. The first one is it's clean. You know, it looks very good. You know how rigs look like in normal rigs, for example, but with IK Booster the rig is as good as this. You see, this is everything you need to actually animate. So I can simply click and drag to animate this item. So it's that simple. So I don't need all these fancy controls that you normally have with your other 3D packages. It looks just like the normal character looks like normally without any controls, and it's easy to animate. So that's point number one. It looks clean. So the second one is fast rigging. So let me demonstrate that by loading an object. You know, rigging in using IK Booster takes literally a minute. No joke whatsoever. So let me load this one and activate bones. Let me go to setup and convert skeletons to bones. So as you can see now, I've got bones. All I need to do is press Ctrl B, right click, apply IK Booster, and then I add IK stop on the items that I want IK to end. For example, here and there, and on the hips as well, IK stop, and then IK fix on the feet so that the feet remain on the ground while I animate. And that's it. The rig process is done. So if I go to frame 10 here, I can begin my animation, click and drag without a problem, and the character will respond accordingly. So that's how easy it is to rig a character. It takes seconds or a minute at most. All right, so point number 3, because of this, you know, the simplicity of this rig, there's no lag in the preview. I can be playing the preview here while Lightwave is playing. I can move the preview around like this and everything still works very well because everything is so simple. Normally when you have a normal rig with a lot of control, you need a lot of items, a lot of no objects in the scene as well, and that adds to the processing power and that reduces the speed of your PC. Alright, so the fifth one, or the fourth one in this case, is fast animation. So you can animate very fast here because you don't need to switch between modes, because normally when you are animating, let me load a scene that has the normal IK mode. For example, this scene, I literally haven't animated in this fashion in a really long time. So for example, if I move this no object, it moves the IK chain in here. This is the normal thing we're used to. But if I want to rotate the arm itself, the wrist, I would have to go to rotate mode and then start using the rotate controls. And then when I want to move the arm, I have to go back to move to. So this takes a few keyboard presses here to cycle between these. This might seem like a very simple thing, but it wastes a lot of time. When you are using IK Booster instead, you simply click and drag. No need to move between modes. Alright? Just like that. So that speeds up your animation. This is an adaptable rig. Okay, so if for example you think, oh okay, I need an elbow control, what happens with the ordinary the other rigs that you use normally is that if you need an elbow control, for example, halfway through your animation you need an elbow control, that would be a nightmare, because now you have to add a no object and set it up to work with the IK that you already have. And then if you have the same rig in different scenes, then it won't update because this is a different rig in a different scene. But in here with IK Booster, if for example I want an elbow control, I simply fix the wrist here, I fix it, in place, and then I can move my elbow at will. It's that simple. So with these controls you can actually adapt your rig to anything, literally. If you find that IK Booster is not doing everything you want, is not deforming your character the way you want, you can simply go to the move tool and then use the native Lightwave tools in here, like the rotate and everything, until you get the pose that you want. Then you press Ctrl B, and just like that you're back in IK Booster mode. Okay, and then also it's got FK IK control right built into it, because normally what happens is with a normal rig, if you want to switch between your IK and FK, you need to go through some controls, motion options and all that. But with IK Booster, you simply, if you watch carefully here, there's three numbers. Maybe you can see them better here or there. There are 3 numbers here that represent the axis. So if I click on one and just move it like that, it will move on one axis. So that's FK control built into the IK control right there. So this is real-time FK IK blending. So this speeds up your animation significantly. Alright, so I've covered the powerful keyframe controls here in FK and IK. So what I mean by powerful keyframe controls is this. If, for example, on frame 10, oh, let's go to frame 10 there. If I have a specific pose like this one, this is a pose that I want. So if I go back to 0, I have that. Okay. So if, for example, I don't want this arm to move at this point, I want it to take longer, up to frame 20, I can simply select the parent of this whole arm and then go into child mode, which I actually already am in. And then if I click here and drag, it will move only the keyframes that represent the children of the selected bone, the selected bone plus the children. So if I move the timeline again, you find that this arm, the one on the right side, ends its animation at frame 10, but the other one continues up to frame 20 because I've moved from this bone that is selected to all the children down here. So there are many modes here. You can have all item, parent only, child only, or current item only. So all these are modes you can play around with to control a bunch of keyframes at the same time. Very, very handy. And then there's copy key from I don't know if it's copy key from current. That's what it is. So with a tool like this, for example, if I like the pose at frame 0, I can go to frame 40 where I want to paste it, right click and say copy key from current. Let me select the whole object and then copy key from current. So it selects everything and its children. So as you can see, the pose at 0 has been replicated at frame 40. And then to top it all off, once I replicate the pose, I can simply click and drag the object like this to make it look like it's a slightly different pose. Alright, so if I go back to frame 0, it looks nothing like frame 0 now. It looks like a completely new pose, even though I just copied from there and animated it a little bit further. Such things speed up your animation process significantly. Alright, so there's also something called auto apply. Okay, so to demonstrate auto apply, let me clear the scene, for example. Let me go to items and create a no object. Let me create a box so that we can clearly see this no object. Now if I animate it to frame, let's say frame 30, and then I go something like that. So this is just a simple move animation. Now if I right click the keyframes, and they actually bake these keys. So for example, if you've got motion capture files that have baked keyframes, if I happen to, let me add IK Booster here. If I happen to move this on the y-axis at this point, so you see what happens, because there's a keyframe on every frame, that's what happens. The thing snaps into the new position. But if using IK Booster, I select these keyframes here, a bunch of keyframes, and then right click and say apply keys, I can add a soft apply or a linear apply to that part, and you see what happens now. It's going to smooth that animation in like that. Now if you're lazy with doing such things, you can simply go to the menu and click auto apply. So what auto apply does is it applies this same thing automatically like that. So as you animate, you see the keyframes moving in accordance to they auto apply by themselves. Alright, so that's about auto apply. This is very good when you have a lot key motion capture files that have got a key on every frame, so you can edit them like this without much hassle. So this thing is good with tentacles and tails and stuff like that. So for example, let me clear this scene. Clear scene. Let me load an object. I made something like a rope some time back, so let me see if I can use that. Alright, so the rope has got bones in it, so let me activate the bones, convert skeletons to bones. So if for example I add IK booster here, all I have to do is select which bone I want the IK to stop, and the tail is active for animation. So I can go to frame 10 here and then click and drag, and just like that you see I'm animating this this tail. If this was a tail or it was a tentacle of some sort, look at that, it looks very organic. Look at that. Okay, awesome stuff. So IK booster works really well with tentacles and tails of animals, so you don't have to worry about putting too many tails on your characters. You can put as many as you want and they'll be very easy to animate. Okay, so on number 8, you can retain your motion even after removing IK booster. So if I go to this same object and go to properties, and then there's IK booster here, I can simply disable it. But if you notice, the animation still stands, it's still there. I can't use IK booster now on this item, but the motion still remains. I can actually delete IK booster from here. There we go. Let me remove IK booster. And as you can see, the animation still stands because the bones themselves are the ones that got the keyframes. So the keyframes are on the bones themselves. So this is what makes IK booster very powerful. Speaking of keyframes on the bones, let's go to point number 10. You can export your animation to another another package, another 3D package as FBX with the motion on the bones attached without worrying about baking, because normally when you use the normal rigs you have to bake these motions. Now baking puts a keyframe on every frame, which is not very good, but in this case you can bake a motion without having to have a key on every frame. And last but not the least, you can save motions. So if I load my original scene right there, let me load that scene. Okay, so I have some motions that I save with this for this object. For example, if I right click and motion load, I can go to, let's see, drive D. Let me find my motions here and go to walking. I want to add a walk cycle, so I can add a walk cycle like that. So as you can see, all right, here we go. So as you can see, I have loaded an animation here. Okay, hold on 1 second, my battery is about to die. Okay, there we go, I got it now. All right, so if I move my timeline here, you see that I've loaded a motion. But not only that, if for example I have 300 frames here, I can select this motion that I have loaded. Let me right click and copy keys. I can copy this to 300 frames, and just like that the thing is going to loop up to frame 300. Okay, not only that, because there are these child modes here, there are these modes, keyframe modes I mean, I can simply select all these this bone, select all the keyframes and delete them. Now since I'm in child mode, it's going to delete everything and its children. So you see this arm isn't animating anymore, so now it's free to be animated in a different way. So like that, the animation will look very organic, even though it was just a loop, like that. Okay, so all those are advantages to using IK Booster. So what I've mentioned here is just simply a scratching the surface of what IK Booster can do. It can do quite a number of things, so I would encourage you to actually use IK Booster. Start using it today. I'm going to be adding more tutorials to show how I use IK Booster every day in my everyday projects, so that it's easier for you to have any, in case you have any issues, you're going to see how to overcome those issues that I have been through as well. Alright, so until next time, I'll see you in another tutorial. Goodbye.